Hey everyone, John Fleetcraft here. In this video, I'm going to give you some real-world examples of why it is so important to use a metronome while you're practicing. So years ago, a student came to me. She wanted me to help her prepare to go to Musicians Institute, BIT, in 6 months. So I had her play something at the first lesson, and she literally could not play 3 notes in time. So I asked her if she worked with a metronome. She didn't know what a metronome was. So I had her get one, and a month after working with a metronome diligently, her time was good, and she was able to play things in time with the metronome and without. And 6 months after she started working with a metronome, her time was excellent. So am I saying that working with a metronome is the thing that made the difference between her having non-existent time and 6 months later having great time? Of course that's what I'm saying. It's simple cause and effect. She had horrible time. She started working with a metronome. 6 months later, her time was excellent. The metronome is the only explanation for that happening. So because of my helping her with her time and her working so hard on it and working so hard on everything else that I gave her, she was very well prepared for her time at BIT, and because of that, she had an amazing experience there. So it was all good. Here's another example of why it's so important to practice with metronome. Let's say you've only played in 4/4, and you're only familiar with 4/4, and you want to start working on playing in 3/4. Well, a great way to start doing that is to have the metronome click with an accent in 3, just until you're used to playing in 3, so that it's natural. If you don't do that, when you practice things that you think are in 3, they very well may still be in 4. But the metronome doesn't lie. So if you've got it accenting in 3, it's going to tell you, yes, you're in 3, or whoops, you're not lined up with that accent, which means you need to fix that, which you will because the metronome is telling you to. You can also do this with odd times. So let's say you have never played in 5/4 and you want to get your 5/4 playing at least started. You have the metronome click with an accent in 5, and that tells you, yes, you're actually playing in 5, or no, you're not. You need to fix that. Otherwise, what ends up happening is people think they're playing in 5 in this example, and they're actually playing in 4. But the metronome will tell you whether you are or not. And again, once you get it down, playing in 3 or playing in 5, you don't need to use the metronome in this way anymore, but it helps you get started and much more efficient. Gives you something to work off of so that you can get to the next level much quicker. Here's another real-world example of why you want to practice with a metronome. If you go into the studio or doing home recording, most likely you're going to be recording to a click. And recording to a click is an art unto itself. And if you're not used to that because you haven't been practicing the metronome, you're probably going to struggle, which is just why put yourself through that. If you practice to a metronome when you go in the studio and you're playing to a click, you're recording to a click, it's totally natural because you're so used to it. It becomes so easy. Another reason to work with a metronome is if you're learning a new rhythm that you're not familiar with. It makes it much easier to have this click, let's say clicking in quarter notes while you're learning to, it could be any rhythm. Let's say you're learning how to play 8th notes on ands, or you're learning how to subdivide in 16th notes. If you have this click going in quarter notes, you've got this reference point to work off of until you can feel that rhythm that you were unfamiliar with, and then you have it, and that's that. It just makes it way easier. Now, of course, there are times where you're not going to use a metronome. Here's one of them. Let's say you're learning something and you can't play it in time with a click. Well, you turn the click off, and then you learn this thing out of time, however long it takes, until you can actually play it in time. Then you turn the click back on at whatever the appropriate tempo is, and that's what you do. So you definitely don't always play with a click, but it's just a great thing to practice with for the reasons that I gave. These are real-world examples, and I'm a big believer in this. This is the way to go. Doesn't mean you're always going to do it, but you definitely want to be using it for the reasons that I gave. So anyway, if you like this video, please hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.